everyone, and welcome to Zest with me, Shel Marie, the podcast that will take you on a journey from the hustle to the harmony, fueling your passion whilst finding your peace. Today, it's an absolute honor to welcome a true powerhouse to the show, Sabine Schoepke. I really hope I said her surname right. We just did this really funny thing of make sure I say it right, and I'm sure I've just said it wrong, but I apologize, and lots of love to her. She is no stranger to innovation and reinvention. As a 7 times founder, digital creator and unapologetic. This is the part that I absolutely love and wanted to speak to her for. Midlife disruptor. She brings over 35 years of real lived business experience to everything she does. Her story is nothing short of extraordinary. Rising from homelessness to a multi-millionaire, from a bodybuilder to a bold, badass community builder, and now as the creator of the Power Life. She's rewriting the rules of success and coaching as we know it. She isn't just here to sell fluff and funnel anyone into expensive, manipulative programs. She's on a mission to make success tangible, affordable, and aligned, which is super empowering and important at the moment. She is empowering high-achieving midlifers to stop spinning and start living with clarity, purpose, and unapologetic freedom. Yes, yes, yes. She's walked through fire so others can rise. And today she's sharing that fire with us. I am super, 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 super excited. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you so much, Shel Marie. I'm good. I'm so excited to be here.
I can't believe I still got it wrong after we did the whole thing. But anyway, do you know what? This is what this whole podcast is about, is to show that we are not perfect, that even when we could practice, we still end up just producing how we obviously want it to come out. Not that that takes away the fact that it's your beautiful name. But yeah, much more than that. I don't even know where to begin. Wow. Not to bring it up, but obviously this is an incredible part of your journey, because I kind of, the word story doesn't always sit right with me, because a story to me is kind of sometimes, not always, but a fantasy. And it's not a fantasy, it's your life. So yeah, whichever way you would like to say, or however, because I'm sure in knowing what you've achieved, to really pull it back sometimes and really see the qualities of this incredible woman who has achieved so much. It's so important to come from a place of empowerment, especially when there's people are at these times now where, you know, they might be here or in the middle, or, you know, edging towards where you're heading. So I think it's super important to share that. So let's just say, could we say you kind of went from rock bottom to radiant impact, I feel. Yeah, how on earth just where was your mind at, and how did you keep yourself believing and just knowing that you will change your life?
So if we really briefly take it way back from when I was homeless. So I'm originally from Germany. I left Germany on my own when I was 17. I went to Canada. I went to school there, and then I was homeless. And so the thing is, like, when you just said that about believing and knowing and all of that, is that there was never a doubt in my mind back then that that's just the way it's going to be. Yeah, we're gonna do this.
Wow.
Like, especially as a mom, and my kids are now in their 20s, but when I looked at them when they were 17, and I was like, wow, that was me. And I left by myself to another continent to figure it out. And like, that seemed really crazy to me, because my kids are very independent and they're very social and all of that, but it still seemed crazy to me. They still seemed like babies. But I remember sitting on a park bench in Toronto on Yonge and Bloor, and I had nowhere to go. And but I had this idea, this vision of what I could do because I was always really good at connecting the dots. I always saw
Wow.
opportunities. And even back then, I was like, I see an opportunity to bring North American made goods to Europe, not through the official channels, but by basically buying retail in North America and sending it over to Europe. And I started really small, but then within a really short amount of time, I filled entire aircrafts with North American made goods and shipped them over and found a distribution network in Europe and all of that. At that time, I was like 19. And within a year, I built $1 million company. But, like back then, I just knew, like, this is what I'm going to do. And
Wow.
let's make it happen. I remember I had $3 in my wallet. That's all I had. And I would just walk everywhere. Like, there was no doubt in my mind. I wasn't standing in my own way. I just knew this is what I was going to do. And then I got into this, and then I went back to university and supported myself, and I got an MBA, and then I like because that's the way you do it. I applied for jobs, but then I'm like, what am I doing? I'm doing exactly
Wow.
what I love. Why would I get a job and limit myself? No. And then instead I expanded the company into the US, and in 96, 97, I moved to the US and opened up subsidiaries of that company in the US. And I went from there. And then fast forward 30 some years, I was never married. I was in a long-term relationship of 22 years. I had twins, but I had to leave the relationship because it was abusive. And I raised those twins, and I had multiple companies in between. But by the time now, fast forward, like I dealt with all kinds of things.
Mm.
I had cancer. I dealt with a home invasion where I was brutally beaten up in my sleep, and I had PTSD. Like there was a lot of chapters in between. But 2 years ago, when I sold the last company, both of my kids were twins. They both had graduated from high school, and they both wanted to go over to Europe. And they kind of wanted to do what I did, but just because the grass is always a little greener on the other side, and it was exciting to live in Europe when you've lived in the US most of your life. So it was a choice for them. And so I remember sitting in my empty house, kids are gone, business is sold, and I cleaning out stuff, and I pull out this old vision board.
Oh my
And I
God.
looked at this, and I sat on the floor, and I looked at this, and I'm like, oh my God, you have accomplished everything on that old vision board and then some.
Mm.
And how come you're not happy?
Oh, wow. I was not
And it's like,
expecting that last bit. Wow.
I was like, I feel nothing else. Actually, I feel really empty. When I was homeless on that park bench, I had a North Star,
Oh, yeah.
but now I don't have that anymore. Everything on here, financially, having children, having the beautiful house and the cars that I love, and, like all of that I got. And yet I
Mm.
felt so empty compared to when I was homeless on that park bench. And I
Mm.
really struggled with that. And I was in the best shape of my life. I became a bodybuilder at 49. So by the time I was like 52, I was like, holy shit, I've never looked better in my life. Like every
Wow.
single box was checked. And yet that night I went to bed, I was so depressed. I was so sad, so depressed. I'm like, what now?
Mm.
And it took me a little bit, I want to say probably a few weeks, maybe 2 to 4 weeks, to realize that I had to let it all go. And I gave it all
Wow.
away. I sold some stuff. Like I sold my house, I sold my cars, I gave away everything I owned. I narrowed all of my belongings down to 2 suitcases, and now we're going to start again.
Oh my gosh.
But it's from a different place. Back
Yeah.
then, when I was 19, it was driven by fear. And I realized that because I was like, what, like, okay, do it, just do it. Jump off that pier. You don't have the answers, but you're going to learn how to
Yeah.
swim. Just do it. And now I was in a position where I I had to learn to let go because that fear wasn't there anymore. Like I was still running like crazy, like, and I realized, what am I running from? Like, what am I trying to achieve? What is there still to do that I didn't like, that I wanted to get done, but I realized it's all done. So you got to switch your perspective from running from fear to be driven by joy. And that sounds really simple, but if you've been programmed your entire life, the first 40, 50 years of your life to run from
Yeah.
something, it's really, really hard. So I knew I couldn't do that in LA. I knew I couldn't do it being in the bodybuilding world because there I still had to, I felt like I needed to prove myself and become bigger and become stronger and compete and do all of these. I'm like, no, I gotta let it go, all of it. And
Wow.
so on December 31st of 23, I'd gotten rid of everything. I had 2 suitcases left of my belongings, and I got on a flight to Munich. And I arrived in Munich and I was like, and now what?
Wow. Before you
So
continue, because it's wow. Yeah, I don't even know where to begin. Well, I do. First of all, I just want to just honor you, actually, for because I feel like, although I feel like it's come from, even though the what you've expressed from the words, um, if we focus on the words, it's actually, you've really said some raw, real things that most people would really definitely get held up on. But the way you said it is so, even now on the almost the cliffhanger, which we know is going to be more revealed, you still said it in such an empowering way. So first of all, I just want to really honor that. Second of all, I want to really express gratitude to you, because I think often it's always almost it's the opposite of, like, we had to be forced into this position. And this is why I really want to celebrate you, because you have actually shown, you haven't said, oh, I had all this and then I wanted to experience what that's like. You've actually experienced both, and you've made a choice, which I think is really key here. You made a choice. Even when you experience one polarity to the other, you still made a conscious choice that I think many, which is ironic because you would think having it all, there's this thing of like, you should be happy. Well, no, the inner feeling. And I think actually, obviously we can't compare and we can't compare anybody's personal journey, but I think when you are forced, you are almost like, you are like hit with, I need to change and make this happen. Okay, it might be fight or flight, and it might be that adrenaline, but you literally have to make it happen. So I don't think, definitely not heard this before, many people could do the reverse of, like, literally sat there, and I know it wouldn't have been like a quick thing, but to say like, wow, got this house, got an incredible body, I'm excelling in this, I'm excelling in that, I'm gonna let it all go. I honestly, I don't think I've ever heard that. And I really, really admire you for that, because I really think there, especially from an ego perspective, I don't think many people could. And I think hearing this and what you've done, and I know you're going to reveal a lot more, I think it almost allows, not to say to get rid of everything and go to 2 suitcases. Like, some people that would be like way too much, like, yeah, downsize or something. But I think you've just really given people permission, because I think actually that's a harder thing to be stuck in, because there's no proving, is there? It's kind of like, and I think quote me if you feel differently about this, but there's almost like this societal thing of like, people really often enjoy the the more negative aspects of people's success. So for you to kind of not saying that that's what you did, but kind of go, do you know what? I'm going to do this. And then knowing that whether we don't care about what people say, but people then to have their like, oh yeah, she had that big house and make their stories or whatever. Whereas I feel like the other side of it of like not proving to anyone, but saying like, okay, I know what you all felt, but I believed in me and this is what I've achieved. It's a very different feeling. So, yeah, wow, I honestly, admire you so much and I really want you to continue. But I just really felt like you just said so many incredible things there and you really brushed over some really I know key things, and I know we're focusing on your transformation and your impact because it's really important. Particularly I want to, and it's not putting all that under the carpet, like it's life, but you mentioned cancer, you mentioned this, you mentioned that, and I really want you to know I heard that, I'm honoring that, and I know that I don't want to just skip over that, but I also don't want to focus on that because I know that everything up to this point has really built you into the incredible woman you are today. So thank you. So sorry, I know that took longer than expected, but I really,
No,
really
no,
wanted
and
to say that to you.
there's two parts to this. What I then learned, is that in the time that came afterwards, and I can elaborate a little bit on that,
Mm,
is like I created a timeline of my life. And I looked at my life and all the things that I experienced, and there was some very traumatic things, and people say trauma, but like really traumatic things
yeah.
in my childhood that happened. That was the reason why I left so young. And but when I sat down and I created this timeline and I connected the dots of what
Mm,
that the consequences of that and where that took me to, I realized that I am not special. Everybody experiences things, like and that's why this is not even relevant. It's just acknowledging that we all experience things, whether it is cancer or it's bankruptcy or like we had a house fire, we lost it all. And like there was so many things, but we all experience things and I'm not special. But when we can get to a point where we realize that these things, that actually gifts
mm,
that help us to level up. And
yes.
that's the way I see it. It's like a game, it's like, okay, life
Mm-hmm.
is going to throw this at us. And how are you going to deal with this? How are you going to come out on the other side? And not despite of it, but because of it.
Oh, yes.
So then, and that's what I realized. I was like, oh, wow, all of those things, all of those things that were bad things that happened in life helped me to level up. And
Yeah.
now, like that, I have achieved and I have arrived where I wanted to arrive. What am I going to allow this to do? Is that now going to bring me back down because I I am going to be arrogant and ego and I'm going to be complacent and like is or am I going to make the things that leveled me up actually
Mm,
count in my life and do something with them? They weren't just there for me to create wealth and to send my kids to good schools and to buy the nice cars and the big house. That's not when you look at life, and that's what I realized. Life is not about that. It's not meant to be about that. It's
mm,
about taking a step back and saying, okay, what was that really for? And that's
mm,
the time I needed away from it all, away from all the noise, away from all the temptations. So,
mm.
and I've, over the last 25 years, I was always drawn back to the German Alps because my grandfather used to have a place there when we were really little. And somehow there was this, for me, it was this really serene, magical, peaceful place. So that's where I ended up going. I rented a car and I went from Munich to the German Alps, and I found this tiny little place high up in the mountains,
Beautiful.
away from it all. Like there wasn't even street names, there was no stores. I shaved off all my hair, and I just sat. Like arrived January 1st. I had a really long winter of like snow, I couldn't go anywhere, and I picked up food from the neighboring farmers and eggs and cheese and like, but it was just me. And
Mm.
it was the hardest thing I have ever done in my life, because my whole life I was running towards something,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden I had to sit just with myself.
Mm.
And it was so painful. I mean,
Yeah.
the first, I want to say 2 months, I probably cried every day, honestly. It's like, what did I do? What did I do with my life?
Yeah.
I look at this. I'm in this tiny little farm house on top of a farm, and like there's furniture from the 60s and 70s. Like there's nothing here. There's nobody to distract me. And I realized that when I got there, I went shopping to take food with me into this little place. And I bought all the things that I was used to, including a bottle of whiskey. And then by the time I got to the place and I opened the bottle, I'm like, what are you
Mm.
doing?
Oh
You
my
just
gosh.
relocated geographically, but you're taking all of your things with you. I'd looked up where the next gym is. And I'm like, no.
Mm.
I poured the whiskey down the drain. I'm like, no more.
Oh my
No more
God.
distraction. Just raw with yourself and see what happens. What bubbles up? What do you want
Wow.
for the second half of your life?
Wow. Can I just really, because it's really interesting, and you have a beautiful way of doing this. I just really want to emphasize that you have this way. Um, and I always like to think how, as well as being here present right now, I like to think how someone else listening might be thinking and not make it about me and knowing your story. And it's really interesting because I could just sense this coming into potentially people's minds of when you were telling the story, and I decided to do this, and I went to back to there, and I went into the Alps, and you really really painted a beautiful picture, by the way, yeah. And I could straight away hear, wow, she's got money. So of course, I don't
Right?
know why. So I really,
No.
really, just really want to emphasize, because I think this is important, because if something comes in, I feel like I can discern what's not mine and what is mine. And I'm not saying that people were thinking that, but I think it's really important that
How we do?
when something comes in to address that, because regardless of whether you got the most chic, incredible chalet with the most surreal view, it's irrelevant, because what we need to focus on here, because we really need to pull this back, what you really, at the heart of what you're saying, and thank you for that, is it didn't matter. It didn't matter whether it was from the 60s, whether it was broken, whether it was flashy, whether it was brand new, whether you could go and buy exactly what you wanted, you knew where the gym was. That didn't matter, because it was coming back to you. And that for me is real strength, and really knowing and listening to you and your intention. Because I think a lot of people could have been slipped up by that. Or relocation, okay, and sit there again, and maybe it might come, but like, I'm confused. Why do I still feel the same? But you just, wow, really powerfully told that. And for me, all goes back to here, doesn't it? It does not matter when something here.
Really, at first it goes into here and then it goes
Yes,
into here.
yes, thank you.
And I honestly, so yes, I got a lot of heat. I lost a lot of friends in the process, and family. And that was probably the hardest part of letting go, because I had to let it all go, not just the materialistic things, but the relationships.
Yeah.
I was in a steady relationship with somebody for, at that point, like over 2 years. And even that, I took a chance and I said, I'm going to go. I don't know if I'm ever going to be back. I don't know. You want to keep this up? Like, we can talk, but I don't know what to tell you. I got people writing to me online saying, you're so selfish, you abandoned your children. Not true. My kids were already in Europe. The birds had left the nest. There were people saying, you have a midlife crisis and you're going to come back. And I said, actually, I think it's a midlife awakening. And it's funny because when I did come back, and I visited once, I had quite a few people tell me and say, you were right. And you know what? To be honest, I was envious of you having the strength to do what you did, and I wish I
Mm-hmm.
could do what you did. So there was all of that. And then the money thing, I got a lot too. Well, you had the money, you could do whatever you want. Well, I have two things to say to that. A, living in Europe cost about a tenth of, and I don't mean like in a big city and with a nice apartment, but what I did, my cost of living in the German
Mm.
Alps was about a tenth of what life in California cost me. So
Wow.
that's not valid. I should have stayed there in order to save money. Um, and the thing is also what I'm telling people is you don't have to do what I did.
Mm-hmm.
For me, this was intuitively, instinctively, my gut was telling me, let it all go and go. Go
Yeah.
far away, isolate yourself. But I have worked with a number of people since I've come back, and people are like, well, I don't have a choice. And I'm like, see, that's the problem. People don't realize that they have the power of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have younger children or you have a relationship you can leave behind and all of that. But there's choices within that. There's degrees of making change in your life. And it's really funny because I can have a conversation with somebody. I met somebody the other day. I went to a conference and at night I sat in the at the bar and I was eating some appetizers and this guy was sitting next to me. He's like, I know you. And we started talking. He's like, yeah, I don't have a choice. I need to make money. And within me eating like that time frame it took me to eat my little appetizer, I had given this guy 10 different choices he could make to change his life. And because life, the changes we make don't need to be a big, massive leap like I did. And
Mm.
really, at the end, it turns out it wasn't like I'm back in California now. It was an excursion I did, but
Mm.
like so it's not the leap that's relevant, it's the little steps that we take. And honestly, I think it was the little steps I took while I was there of disconnecting, of not actually then finding a gym and pushing myself to stay in shape like that. It
Yeah.
was about pouring that whiskey down the drain, saying, you know what, I am gonna not drink anymore because I need to tap into myself. It
Yeah.
was the choices I made about the food that I ate and the walks that I took. Those were the real choices. And really interesting is on one of those walks, I ran into this old man who was sitting on a bench, and he turned out was a monk, and he was telling me about the greatest gift that we have in life and that people don't realize
Mm.
is the power of choice.
Yeah. But you see, so before even that 360 came around, because by the way, everybody, this happens, okay? That monk was not there just strolling around for no reason, whether it was a monk or it was a wise old man or a wise old woman or whatever, it doesn't matter. You still would have got that message, I believe, anyway, I
Yes.
believe.
No, I
Um,
was just saying here.
but just very quickly, because I really love that you just addressed all that. But I think it's so quick for people to straight away zoom now. But you have the money and all this, which is why I purposely brought that up, because I know also you're a disruptor, and I
I'm
know that
glad.
you have that like that fire, which I love, which is why I gave you that introduction. But it's very quick to forget. If, quote me if I'm wrong, you were 17, if I heard right. Homeless, a choice, by the way, which you, well, potentially a choice. I don't want to put words into your mouth. And that was your foundation for what you built, because you saw something and ultimately you knew what people wanted and you found a solution. So I think actually, in your particular case, I don't think either side you can even say that to you, because you have literally experienced both. So I think, oh, but you have the money. She didn't then. So yeah, it's just wow. Um, Literally anybody, I feel, from both sides can 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 take inspiration regardless of whichever path, whatever's happening in your life. just to go back to what you said, because I think it was really powerful. And whatever you feel you would like to, but I think we've spoke a lot about your story, and it's through the power of your journey, and it's through the power of really expressing what we have. And you said it so beautifully. Was it grow through? Just making. You said something. You said it was really powerful.
Oh, it wasn't despite of it, but because of
Because
it.
of it, yeah. I really loved
Yeah.
that. And then you said in between just eating your appetizer. Okay, let's just think about this, right? This is very, I can't imagine this is a massive appetizer here, by the way. So as we have you and your incredible mindset, let's just put that there. And you're absolutely right, because this can very much lead us down the garden path. So it's very important, the alignment. So thank you for so much for bringing up about the heart-centeredness as well, and really feeling into it. What could you say right now to somebody listening, regardless of where they're at, that potentially you said to that man? And I know it's probably personalized, but that you could probably think of a generic example. But what could you say to them right now that would really just shift them, and they can instantly take action right now, basically get out of that victim consciousness a little bit, that poor me, and collecting evidence of what's going wrong instead of seeing the solution, the focus, the greatness in their life? Because there's always both, I believe, in every situation.
Um, the man I was sitting next to, he was a pilot, and he said, "Look, I make great money. I'm going through divorce right now. I can support my family with that. I can support a lifestyle that I enjoy, but there's something else I really, really want to do. But if I do that, then the money is gone, and it's not realistic. I can't do what you did." And I looked at him and I said, and that's is my answer to anybody, is you don't need to burn it all down
Mm.
in order to make change. So the the thing to do is to take a step back and get a bird's eye view of your life, because with all the choices that you make, there's black and white, but there's a lot of gray in between.
Mm.
So let's look at the gray. And like with him, I was like, wait a second, as a pilot, you only fly, I don't know what it was, like 14 days out of 30. What do you do the other 16 days?
But you see, solution. There you go. Boom, solution.
So,
Amazing.
and it really depends what
Yes, of
people's
course, it's
lives and
tailored to the
circumstances
person.
are. But
Yeah.
the goal is to take a step back and look at your life. And then what I ask people, say, okay, so which parts do you love and which parts don't you love? And what would you rather be doing? And then find ways to get to the other part that they want to
Mm.
do by looking at the gray. Because people are like, well, I have a full-time job. Okay, but okay, you work, I don't know, 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday. Well, what do you do the rest of the time? Where do you
Mm.
spend your time? And what little things can we infuse to start putting you on that path?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's the trick. And I have reinvented myself so many times, and I'm doing it again now but not through the big leaps, but by making it. This week I started by getting up and going for a walk. I drink some
Mm.
water, I get dressed, and I go for a walk, which seems like this is really minor. And I started like, I'm not going to do this overwhelming thing because I'm such an extremist. I could be like, oh, I'm going to need to get 10,000 steps in first thing in the morning. It's never going to happen. It's unrealistic. Like, let's keep it real. I'm like, this week I'm starting with 20 minutes in the morning. That's it. Because I need to move more. So
But for
it's a little,
you, but that's perfect for you and knowing you, because which I love with everything you just keep saying is you straight away know you, but you know that version of you that you're trying to be like, not rein in, because there's no reining in, but just like wait a second. Oh, I see that not that pattern, because these words,
Oh, it's
but you,
it's
but you know what I mean. You see that
yes.
almost that competitive extremist coming in and being like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, we're just gonna do this. Calm down here.
Yeah.
And I just love it. Whereas someone else needs like, a rocket up their bottom. So
Yeah, so it's a very personal thing, and
yeah.
but I have to say also, I feel like I've always been very lucky that the right people have always shown up at the right time for me. Like there's people that shown up and they've taught me something about
Mm,
myself or about the world that we live in to help me get a different perspective on what my choices are ultimately,
beautiful.
and that, but the thing is, and that's the other thing I would like to know for people to know is that it requires an openness, an awareness, instead of just being victim saying, my life sucks and there's nothing I can do about it. Life is
Mm,
really brutal to me, blah, 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 blah. Like all of that stuff. No, 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 no. It's actually trying to show you something. And if we can just, again, take that step back and open ourselves up and say, okay, now what? Like, and
mm,
we don't need to have all of the answers. The answers will come, but there needs to be an openness to, in order for you to even see that there's other choices and that there's other opportunities right there under your nose because they are there.
yeah. And I would love your take on this, but I think also remembering back to what you said, I think it's really important as well to recognize that sometimes there's a transition, like a period, because you even openly admitted, and I cried and I cried and I cried. Okay, that's not saying that's all you did. But I think also to go back to ourselves again and just say, do you know what? Right now, in this moment, I'm actually just going to honor how I'm feeling. I'm going to really honor this. I'm not going to get stuck in it. I know that's hard to also think about while doing it, but just be like, okay, I'm going to have this moment. I'm going to have this moment because I think that's really important to as well to really go for it, but not let it become you, because it's really important to let it out, whatever way that is, whether that is going to throw weights around a gym, whether that's writing, cooking, whatever you want to do, because again, it goes back to the person. um and then I love, which I know people listening now, is connecting with inspiring women like you. Okay, not just women, but you just happen to be a woman here right now. We're not just saying women. And just having that person, because sometimes when you really want to up level and you really want to change your life, it's nice to have that, like, you could, but this isn't always what we need. And that's why I now know why you say disruptor. Because actually, right now you can, and this is speaking to people, you can see, right, this woman is so open-minded, so kind, so inspiring, but she's also got fuel in her words, okay? And for me, like I feel it already, like I'm so like really, really vibing with your energy and it gets me fueled, okay? What do you want? You want someone to listen and keep going over the same narratives because your brain doesn't actually know the difference. Yes, allow that period and then get up and get on with it because you want to have the life, and just to put that out there as well. Even when you had that house and you had that car and you had everything, you deserved it, my honey. You deserved it, but there was something in you that wanted to change that. So I think that's really important to say as well, of we can have it all. But it goes back to how do you feel in that moment. And that was definitely not what the message was. I just really wanna I believe that you feel the same. It wasn't about, oh, you're gonna get to the other side and then you're gonna feel this. That's not what the message was. The message was, I felt this. Okay, and I think that's really important to really emphasize. I don't know what you feel about that.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that you just said. There is, it really goes back to it takes a village. And
Mm.
that's something else I learned. So I was sitting in front of this tiny little place I had in of the farm. And during like then spring and summer, I would sit there and I would look. There were other little farmhouses, and every single one of them, there was like three, four generations living together.
Wow.
And I was like, God, this is what we're missing. Wow.
Mm.
This is why I got into bodybuilding after the home invasion because I had a community that
Mm.
I belonged to, that supported me, that nurtured me, that I felt safe in. And
Mm.
that was the same thing. That's why I kept going back every single day. And sometimes even if I didn't feel like working out, but I had a sense of belonging. And I
Mm.
feel like that's something, and that's what I learned now in the last couple of years. There's a lack of sense of belonging. And that's why I also think the whole coaching industry has become so popular because people were longing for the human connection of being able to talk to somebody and share what's going on with somebody who has no skin in the game, somebody who has no agenda in your life, but to listen to you and help you get that bird's eye view and then take on a different perspective of what's going on in your life. So that's one thing. It takes a village. You're not meant to do this alone. You're
Beautiful.
not. None of us are. So that's one thing. And the other thing is because I did what I did for the first 50 years of my life, or actively like the first 35, whatever, of my life. And that was the right thing to do. I have zero regrets for what I've built and what I have achieved. I'm actually today, I can love myself for it. And I am very proud of what I have done. But the thing is, we never arrive. That's another thing I realized on this journey in the last couple of years. We don't arrive. And just because it was right back then, we are gonna evolve and now get to a different point in our lives where we see things differently and other things become important. And it's really, you could say, oh, it was kind of a coincidence. My kids graduated and they left. And then there was, the business was sold. But no,
No.
it's a chapter that was finished and
Mm.
where it threw me into this turmoil of identity crisis of like, I'm no longer a mother, which I am, but not like I used to be, and I'm no longer a
Mm.
business owner. So what am I? What am I supposed to be for the next, I don't know, if I'm lucky, 30, 40 years of my life? But uh, it's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. And don't judge yourself for not being happy with something that you thought you always wanted and then you have it. And you're like, oh, but now what? It's actually not that relevant anymore because that's our journeys. There is
Yes.
journeys.
Yes.
And I actually did a ceremony, a medicated ceremony about 6 weeks ago. And I brought that up and I went into it with the intention of getting clarity of like, am I crazy? Like I'm constantly like reinventing myself and like and in my vision in that ceremony, it was I mean, I knew it, but like it was so clear the way it was shown to me. I saw my whole life from birth to death. And it showed me that each chapter of my life is a journey that I have completed. And now I
Mm.
am ready to move on. And even the people that we touch, they're there for a reason, but they have their own journeys. And it's not our responsibility to take on everybody else's things. Whether
Yes.
it's my friends who are envious or, like, or it's family who doesn't understand what I'm doing. That's not my journey. I have my own journey, and so does everybody else. But it's ever evolving, and don't judge yourself.
Thank you so much for that. And I really love that you mentioned that because I remember you said earlier, and it was just very quickly, but I remember you said I've arrived or something. And I remember, and then you continued, and I remember wanting to actually really comment on that. And you just beautifully addressed it again because this is not a destination. And as you can hear from this incredible woman, just from the fire in her and the like, I feel that really like inquisitive nature. That's what I actually hear from you. Is I see the kind of the curiosity and the game like playing it of like I feel like you almost lead the way to show others that it is achievable. And I honestly feel that that's a part of your purpose. So when, you see the description and the labels, and it can be like, 7 times this and da 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 and da da da. Da. But this is why I'm so passionate about this, and I'm so thankful that you said yes and you really showed up for this because often we're getting stuck on the description and the bio and the labels. But this is the real essence of this woman right now. And you're hearing what she's saying. There's something in her, and it's not saying that it's easily achieved. I absolutely don't believe that also, but there's something that's like, you know what? And please quote me if I don't say this, and please correct me if I don't say this right. But I feel like I did that, but I wonder if I can do that now. And I think that really, and I see a lot of me in that, but I'm also, which I really definitely am going to be listening more to you because I definitely am more of a flitter rather than a real like embody, pull it in, and then next. So you have 100% inspired me today. Absolutely. Wow.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, I feel like there's so much more I could really really speak to you. I could speak to you all day. But with that in mind, if there's anything else that you really feel like would benefit the people listening right now, and the other thing that I like to say is, if you could just take a moment right now to just think, for someone listening right now, what do you think they really really need to hear right now? And just whatever comes through.
I often think that, you know what we do with kids, where we put them like in timeout and say, here's your timeout corner or your timeout chair, whatever people do, and say, sit here and think about it.
Love that.
Like we still do that with ourselves. Okay, let's think about this. We gotta come to a conclusion. And it's like, let's put a gun to our heads and say, you need to figure this out. And it's so counterproductive because nobody can think clearly. Nobody. It's not even physically possible. Think clearly when there's a gun to their head and they're like, I need to figure this out.
Mm,
Like instead, and I know it's so hard because I am, I was telling my boyfriend last night, I said, listen, this is again, it's like the hardest thing for me because I am so, let's go, let's do this. I'm so action, I'm so high energy. And you give me something, and I'm like, I'm going to run with it. I'm going to make it happen. I go with my head through the wall. I'm going to make it happen.
mm,
But this chapter of my life is actually about, and that's what saw in my vision too,
yeah.
about surrender and about being still and letting it come to you because I,
Receiving. I was literally just about to
yes,
say that because people think, oh, but she had the house. No, 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 no. You need to receive. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
yes,
Carry on.
that's exactly it. And again, with the work that I have done, when I looked at my life and I see there is lessons in there that have shown me that it never fails. It always happens. The most incredible things happen when you stop the push and the pull and you just let it go and just
Beautiful.
be. And I know, listen, I am German at heart. I am still very grounded. I'm very pragmatic and all of that. But I am telling you, as the most pragmatic, grounded person in the world, It will happen the moment you let it go.
Yeah.
It will come to you, it will present itself, and you will know. And sometimes just take one little step,
Yeah.
and the rest is going to present itself. The next step is going to present itself. The
Yeah.
most beautiful, magical things will appear when we can just be still. And again, I'm saying this as somebody who has the hardest time with that.
I
It's a
hear
very
you.
simple
I
concept, but
hear you.
it's not easy to do, but it's so effective.
Yeah.
And so, from my little heart to everybody else's,
Mm.
this is what we need to do. We need to stop the programming that we have received that we constantly need to be productive and
Yes.
we need to achieve. We don't.
Hmm.
Let it come to you and surround yourself with people who have no skin in the game, but who have this energy, who, and I know they're hard to find too. Again, that's advice which is easily given, but not that you don't find them easily, but life will present them to you.
Mm.
And have an awareness for them, be mindful and spend time with those people. And because you don't have to do it alone,
Yeah.
it's really hard to do it alone. So, and
Beautiful.
that's why,
Absolutely.
like, just so to like come full circle with this, I came back, I thought, I'm just going to help people. And the most obvious thing was, I'm going to be a coach. And then I realized, oh, wow, A, it's really noisy out there. B, I started coaching people and I realized there were so many more people who needed my help who couldn't afford me.
Mm.
And I realized, oh my God, you've got sucked back into the whole programming. Like, this is how it should be done. And I'm like, no, this is not, and it's my choice. It's my personal choice that this chapter is not about this. For me, it's not about building wealth. For me, it's about making the things that I have learned count, which means sharing it with people who really need to hear it. And so I stopped the high-end ticket coaching. And again, if people come to me and present themselves, say, I really want to work with you one-on-one, I will do it, of course, but that's not where my personal focus is on. Now I'm all about basically brain dumping the things that I am sharing with you
Yes.
guys
Yes.
today. My knowledge, whether it's in business, I know how to make money. I can help anybody with that. I know how to be resilient, how to overcome some of the worst challenges. I know all of that. So now I have found great pleasure actually in the mountains. I started to write. I'm like, oh my God, I love this. So I'm like, why not combine the two things, my passion for writing and my purpose of sharing what I have learned in this lifetime so far and brain dumping it into accessible tools that people can
Beautiful.
afford and offering it to them. And I gone down a few rabbit holes because I'm like, well, but I need to market this, and so people can find it. And again, I have realized, no, I need to sit back and just let it be. And
Hmm.
just if they're meant to find it, they will find it.
Yes.
And just focus on what I am truly passionate about and what I really believe in, what my purpose is. And the rest is going to fall into place. And the people who need me in their lives will find me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many oh everyone is like synchronicities. But yeah, there's so many things you say. It's yeah, I again very force, and the moment I thought I received. Mm-mm. I received like I will receive. Um, but yeah, and to add to what you said, because it was so beautiful. I like to from someone who kind of is a bit like I want it now. Um,
Yes.
I take a gameplay sense of it of like, oh, I wonder if I kind of like it. Obviously, in my head got question things like, oh, I wonder why he just told me that. Oh, I wonder why that just happened. And I see it more as like a game. And it's so much more fun and beautiful and unraveling and revealing itself. And I think from what you said, I think there's just it's a journey, and to get to that point when you do know and you know how to make it happen. But I think I always go back to this thing that I read once of like, you can have that. You really can have that, but you don't know what's behind it. And I think that's so beautiful. And I think if you go with that mindset, it's actually exciting because it's continuously a surprise. It's been an absolute blessing. And as I said, like I really could ask you so much more, teach you so much more about so many things. And I just think it's incredible what you're doing. And I think it's absolutely incredible that you've really honed in on that. And I know it's not, like I say, a destination, but that each time, which is the beauty of it, of you go there and then you find a little bit to go there and to go there. And I just I'm excited to continuously keep watching you expand and evolve. And I know that there's so many people that are 100% going to be wanting to reach out to you. Um, and I know you also have discernment with that because, again, everything, everything is a lesson and a blessing. That's life, guys. Like, let's just face it. Um, and yeah, I'm just really excited. I'm so happy that we've connected. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
It was beautiful. We're definitely very much aligned, and yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what I knew. Because I've been laying really low the last few weeks and trying to get used to my new, like, holding back. And because, like you said,
Mm.
it's a simple concept, but it's really challenging
Yeah.
for anybody because of the way we're brought up, because
Hmm.
everything is measured by output and by achieving, and by feel like we're not enough if we don't push and pull.
Mm.
And it's very challenging, but that's why I've really, last few weeks, I've taken a step back on a lot of the social platforms, and I canceled all of my appointments like I told you earlier, but I said I really wanted to talk to you and your audience.
I feel so honored. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so it
Um,
felt right. And I'm like, this is in alignment. Yes, I will show up for this. And
wow.
makes me really
You're gonna
happy.
make me cry. Stop. I
Oh,
said this earlier.
thank you
Even
for
though she
having
said
me.
this to me earlier, it's still anyway. And I just wanted to just add really one last thing because it was really powerful what you said. Oh gosh, why is it just got out my eyes? Because you just said that. Um, Okay, it's clearly, it'll be a shower moment later, like, but that's fine. If I remember, I will add it in the notes. But it's clearly something that just I was supposed to just receive then, and I was obviously trying to direct. So just thank you so much, and yeah, I'm so happy to connect with you, and I know that this is not just like one and done. And I'm really happy to have you not only in my network, but just as someone I truly admire. And yeah, I'm just excited to continue to see you grow and expand and develop. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So appreciate it. I look forward to staying in touch, and let's see what mountains we can move.
Yes, watch this space, everybody. You got
Yes.
two powerhouses now, like with the fuel and still trying to keep each other like not running too much and receiving.
Yes. Off the hamster wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Shel Marie. I so appreciate it. And yeah, I appreciate any thoughts, anybody reaching out, it's would make my day,
And
and
they
to
will,
hear.
trust me, they will. I know I'm present in the moment right now, but I would be already. I'm here now talking to you, but I will be reaching out. And all her details are going to be shared in the notes. And we don't even need to say this. You need to
No.
speak to this lady. She is just, you're not even touching the iceberg. Like, we're just the iceberg. We're not even touching, like, even what's beneath what she's already achieved and knows. I know you said about coach and stuff, but more than a coach, this is a mentor here right now, by the way. An absolute, yeah, blessing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.